School administrators say there is a lack of consistency and oversight for seclusion rooms in Iowa school districts.
Last night we showed you the wide difference between the rooms and how often districts use them to shut in and isolate children having a violent outburst. Chief investigative reporter Josh Scheinblum is back now to explain the lack of oversight and questions on whether some districts are violating federal law.
Beth and Bruce, even Iowa's Department of Education admits it doesn't keep track of which schools have seclusion rooms. We found in our own survey about 2/3 do. They also don't actively look for abuses. The state investigated Iowa City's use of seclusion rooms earlier this year and found misuse and overuse. But I-9 found districts using seclusion rooms far more often than Iowa City and even admitting misuse with no state intervention.
Everyone needs to know that this is in our school districts.
An electrical utility closet is where Tammy Mims, then third grader, found herself after she had an emotional breakdown last school year at Pierce Elementary in Cedar Rapids.
Not the only one that's been put in that room. She's named kids that have been put in that room also.
The Cedar Rapids School District's own investigation into what happened notes the young girl was not a danger to herself or others during the incident. It admits the space was not appropriate for a seclusion room. Both findings are violations of state guidelines.
Seclusion and restraint are not evidence-based practices.
Joseph Ryan is a professor at Clemson University who has studied seclusion rooms for the better part of 2 decades. He says even though there are laws on the books intended to help agencies regulate their use, school seclusion rooms aren't based in science. Did I hear you correctly that there is no scientific evidence that seclusion rooms work?
None. No.
Ryan tells I-9 studies show seclusion rooms actually reinforce bad behavior and put students and staff at greater risk.
I found with my research is basically a lot of the restraints were the result of threatening time out seclusion rooms for the students. Because if you don't want to get into that closet area there, well, what do the staff have to do? They have to go hands-on to basically transport you to there.
There's no way to know just how many times students in the Cedar Rapids Community School District have been placed in unapproved seclusion rooms. That's because officials with the district tell us they don't keep track of where students are put in seclusion. Federal data actually shows Cedar Rapids schools did not use any restraints or seclusion in 2013, the last year it was required to report. But the district admitted to I-9 that is not true. Its own data, which the district is supposed to report to the federal government, shows it used seclusion or restraint an average of 700 times between 2012 and 2014, and that number has increased since then. Dubuque used seclusion or restraint more than 900 times in 2013. Iowa City, the year the state investigated it, used seclusion 455 times.
There is not a requirement for other than what's required in federal law in terms of reporting things to the State Department of Education.
Brad Niebling oversees special education for the Iowa Department of Education. He says the only way his department would launch an investigation is if a state official witnesses an abuse or if there is a formal complaint, as in the case of Iowa City. Do you have all the tools that you need to make sure that schools are in compliance?
We use the tools that we have at our disposal, given what the laws and rules lay out.
Niebling says they rely on districts to regulate seclusion room use themselves. The only other oversight comes from inspections of the rooms. That's up to the city or county building department. In Cedar Rapids, however, the city has no records of any seclusion room inspection reports. How many cities do you think actually know that that falls within their jurisdiction?
I don't know. That would be something I'd be speculating on. I'm not sure how many.
For some years, the Cedar Rapids Community School District was not able to break down instances of when a child was put in a seclusion room versus simply restrained. That is also against federal requirements. The Cedar Rapids District did tell us that a task force was looking into its seclusion room policies, and they'll have recommendations for the school board in February. The Cedar Rapids School District declined to talk to us on camera and was not able to explain why it is apparently not complying with federal requirements on reporting seclusion room use. Beth?